Welcome back, everybody, to another college football release pick video. I'm Cooper, also known as a Sports Prophet on Twitter. If you're tuning in, thanks for joining, whether you're watching on Twitter or X or YouTube, welcome in, everybody. Couple of things before we get into the pick. Just kind of catching up on the season. It's been a little bit of a slower start than previous seasons, but multi-unit plays have still been really solid for us. And I've got a 3-unit play this week, as well as a 2-unit play. So two of the biggest bets of the season coming up this week. The 3-unit play is going to be a weekday game. So make sure, if you're interested in getting in and joining VIP as a subscriber, you get in the next couple of days, because that 3-unit is going to be a Thursday night game. But yeah, two really, really big bets. Multi-unit plays have been really solid this year. Once again, that's kind of been our bread and butter for a long time, is the bigger wagers. I'm a low volume better, so kind of less plays with higher edge is the idea, and that has definitely been the case for our big plays. But let's go ahead and get to it. Obviously, if you're interested in that, I've got my website listed right here, thesportsprophet.com. So let's get to the release pick. All right, here we go. So looking at a couple of teams here, probably not on the casual fans' radar, but definitely a game that I'm going to have some interest in, because it's my job. So I think we can find an edge in this game. Looking at the home team here at ULM, Louisiana, Monroe, Arkansas State. They've got the better record of the two. This game is still sitting around a pick'em, which I think is interesting. When you look at these two teams' schedules, to me, that there's a clear disparity in strength of schedule, and especially as the season has gone on and we've learned more about, the teams that each of these two have played, it's pretty obvious to me. So, Arkansas State, their coach went viral to start the season when they lost 73-0 to Oklahoma to start the year, and he was on a knee, literally crying, like tears coming down his face. Just tapping out in that one pretty much. You kind of feel bad for him, but it's his job, and he had all season to prepare for that one. So you don't feel too bad for him. But so they played Oklahoma. They played Memphis. These are their losses. They lost to Oklahoma, Memphis, Troy, and Coastal Carolina a week ago. The only teams that they've beaten are Stony Brook, FCS team, who's not really a very good FCS team. They beat Southern Miss in a shootout, and they beat UMass in a shootout. Those are three really bad teams. Southern Miss and UMass in particular are two of, you could make a case that those are two of the worst 5 FBS programs in the country right now. Southern Miss might have the worst defense in the country. UMass statistically has the worst defense in the country. And so those are the three teams that Arkansas State has found a way to beat this season. They've got a freshman quarterback that some people are really high on. I'm not as high on. I definitely think he's been an upgrade for this team. But really, I think people are high on them that are just looking at his numbers, and they're not necessarily watching him play. He's not bad, but again, they're playing Southern Miss, UMass, Stony Brook, where he's putting up these numbers. And again, there's not many defensive teams in the country worse than those that I just listed. And then you look at Louisiana, Monroe. They're 2-5. They started the season with a solid win at home against Army. They've only had 3 home games this year. They beat FCS Lamar, who's not – they're slightly improved. They're out of East Texas. They're not a great FCS team either, but I think they're better than Stony Brook. And then they had to play at Texas A&M. They lost to App State 41-40 at home. They got smacked by South Alabama, who's really good. If you've been following them this year, they're just kind of in a class of their own uh, in that conference. Then they lost to Texas State 21-20. They played Texas State really tight. Obviously, Texas State is kind of on the rise this year, beat Baylor earlier in the season. And then they played a really good Georgia Southern team tough. Ended up losing 38-28 last week, even though the game was probably not quite as close as the score indicated. But again, coming back to a clear disparity in strength of schedule, in my opinion, and the reason that this game really kind of jumped off at me, and the reason that I'm firing on it, and the reason I'm sending it out now, is because I think eventually people, and as the week goes on, will see what I saw here. And the eye test between these two, Louisiana Monroe looks like a real football team to me. They look like, obviously, I'm not saying that they're great, but Arkansas State has one of the worst rosters in college football at the FBS level, in my opinion. And when you watch these two teams play, their hat speed on the field, how they move as a team, Louisiana Monroe looks a little bit more buttoned up. They look a little bit more physical at the point of attack, and they just have a better roster. I do wonder if the reason that this game is so close to a pick'em has anything to do with the Louisiana Monroe quarterback situation. They basically played the same two quarterbacks the whole season. The first game of the year, Herring was supposed to start, and he broke his collarbone, so he's out. He hasn't played again. They've been playing a guy named Jaya Wright, who is okay, and then Blake Murphy, a true freshman, actually got more snaps last game against Georgia Southern. I don't know if that was just a matchup thing, because Jaya Wright actually returned in the game later as the game went on. So maybe he was a little banged up. Maybe they thought that the freshman provided a matchup advantage against Georgia Southern. I'm not really sure what it was, but I don't think it's that big of a deal in this matchup, to be honest with you, because I think the Arkansas State defense is really soft. And I just think that the disparity between these two is not showing up in the stats because of the difference in competition. Coastal Carolina last week tried to come out and throw like every play against Arkansas State. What was actually interesting about that game is that when Grayson McCall, the Coastal Carolina quarterback, left the game with an injury, they leaned on the run the rest of the game, and they ran the ball all over Arkansas State. That's what I think Louisiana Monroe can do in this one. I think that they can keep it on the ground for the most part, hit the occasional play action pass out of the backfield or up the seam or something, and move the ball just fine on Arkansas State. And again, I think this Louisiana Monroe defense is a little bit better than the raw stats would indicate, because of who they've had to play this season. And then obviously the cherry on top is that Louisiana Monroe is the home team here. And this is a big opportunity for them to get a win at home. So that's going to be my pick for this week. Louisiana Monroe on the money line, could be listed as ULM on your book, depending on the book, but shouldn't be hard to find. They're playing Arkansas State regardless. So let's go with Louisiana Monroe on the money line and lock it in now. Would not be surprised if this moves. That's the point of the video anyway. So let's get some closing line value in cash, and I'll see you next week.